Welcome everyone back to End Zone Scoop. I'm Liz, and here are my co-hosts Dayna and Shona. We're going to be talking about the latest kind of NFL news, including what we've learned in the preseason, the surprising trades that have been made during the off season, and that really unexpected or not 53-man roster cuts. And then don't forget, we've got a chat function, so if you've got any questions or even just something to say at any point, just drop it in. But before we get into anything, this is our first session back, and the first time that we're all properly seeing each other since Shona's wedding in June, which was also the first time that the three of us have ever been, I think, together since we started this show back in May 2019.
Yeah, that is insane when you think about it. But what a day! I mean, and not that it was just my wedding, because I planned things to perfection. But the sun, the weather, it was 30 degrees in Aberdeen.
I couldn't been that day.
It does not happen. It was like the sun, the gods just was like, it's Shona's wedding. Dayna has flown all the way over from the States. Give her the sun.
It was beautiful. There was lots of sunburns I saw.
Yes, me included.
Yeah,
me included.
Everyone
my
had
nice red tinge.
Yeah. The funny thing is that because Shona was so busy, we did not get a picture of the three of us.
No.
Oh,
I mean, it's your wedding day.
Yeah.
I did get a picture with you and your husband.
Yes, you did. And that was so nice. Yes. It was really fun. It was really gay. And it was so nice. Liz and I had met a couple of times before when I'd gone to the London games, but I had met Shona before and other than on here, of course. And so it was so fun. It was fun to be all of us together. It was a beautiful day, Shona.
Yes, it was a lovely day. It was a lovely day. I'd love to do it again, but then you can't really do it again because it won't be the same.
It would it would never be the same. It would never be the same. Well, we all know preseason is the time where players really get ready for the season, and it gives fans certainly fans like us the chance to see how our teams are basically shaping up. Now, I don't know about you guys, but kind of what I've seen from preseason in terms of preseason, the off-season moves, and just overall talent on teams, I feel like most of it is pretty obvious. Like Bengals, Eagles, Chiefs, all looking ready to compete for a playoff spot. Chiefs in particular looking like they might be the kind of first team since the Patriots to go back to back. You never know. And then you've got the obvious of Colts, Texans, Cardinals, just yet again not showing much and looking like they desperately need to improve. But this is the preseason, right? You can't always judge what's going to happen from a preseason. So what are your guys' thoughts on what you've seen, and kind of who do you think is looking strong and who do you think is looking really bad?
I always feel like fans sometimes put a bit too much emphasis on preseason games.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of like warm-ups, tryouts, if you wish, like to see like the coaches see how they're gonna, what they're gonna choose for their starting lineup on offense and defense. And I think it kind of weeds the way through to that 53-man roster. For me personally, that's the main aim of the preseason. I do think there's some teams though that have just kind of lit like the garbage fire and just gone 49ers, but crazy things happen in San Francisco. That's all I'm saying. I'll get to that, but that's my opinion on the preseason. I feel like it's a good running test to see what works, see what isn't working, and then to make those last minute decisions for that 53-man squad, which we saw happen over the last week or so.
I agree. Here's my thought on the preseason. How it's always been, this has nothing to do with your starters. This has very little to do with your second stringers. This is the second half of the team. It's your third and fourth stringers. It's when you have to go from 53 to 90, who makes that cut and who are, those 37 players that aren't going to make it or whatever it may be. And so if I did my math right there, sorry. But, I think that the interesting thing here is you're looking for your depth. You're looking to see if you grabbed those right undrafted free agents, if you grabbed those, guys that are going to be your special teamers and who can perform there. But what's really interesting is a lot of this is about the rookies too. And it's to bring them in and to get them acclimated to a game day, to how the practice works, the expectations and how they're different from when they would be, necessarily in college. And I think that we saw a lot of really good examples in that. I loved that the rookie quarterbacks played quite a bit because they have to get into that groove of the game day and running a game. And you could see the progression, right? Especially down there in Texas or in Houston, you could see, that their rookie quarterback went from a horrible first game to by the third game, he looked like he was settling in. And so that's really what these preseason games are for. They mean nothing, as we always say to my dear friends, Sonia's despair that, preseason wins and losses mean nothing because the 0-win Lions team won all 4 of their preseason games. So that means nothing. But what it does mean mostly, it doesn't have anything really to do with scheme either. That most coaches, they have different philosophies, but most coaches are like, we are going to show you nothing of our game plan, but it is just good for the practice and the feel of the turf and all of that stuff. So I think it's really important. But where you find the fun in preseason, in my opinion, are those guys. Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Jake Bobo. Who the hell would have thought Jake Bobo, undrafted free agent, made the 53-man roster with gusto, right? That's where you find those Doug Baldwins. That's where you find these guys that just somehow got glazed over in college and in the draft. And I love that. That's the fun part. Then it's the absolute worst day in football, if you ask me, is cut day, is the day that they have to cut down and get rid of those players. And we have to remember, I think only 24 of the players that were cut were picked up by other teams. And that's heartbreaking, right? But they still got to play in uniform on a field, and you never know, maybe they'll come back somewhere else. But I think preseason is really just more about those depth pieces. And thank God they have that. I feel like anytime now, guys, they're going to cut preseason even shorter, maybe even down to 2 games, which I'm not sure how they can do that and have a good functioning football team without a disaster at the beginning of the season. But that's just me.
Graham's popped in the comments. Can we request a welfare check on Mr. J. Ursay of 500 S Capitol Avenue, Indianapolis? He's been doing some very strange things lately. Sai also on Jake Bobo was outstanding in the preseason. Yeah,
he really was. The interesting thing about Israel is literally, what the hell are you doing? How do you not pay the one offensive weapon you have? One, they've won, and they're just letting him. And the GM's like, well, we only won 4 games. That's because the rest of your team sucks. It has nothing to do with him, who killed it last year. But Israel has always been an odd little duck, and they do weird things. It was very well pointed out.
Has anyone ever looked at him and thought he looks a bit like an ostrich, like just with his?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But I think ever since the Andrew Luck incident, Andrew Luck retired because he knew he was never getting out of Indianapolis, and he wanted a different life, and he was getting no support from the front office. Well, now they're doing it again to their next offensive star. Nutty.
Very.
Maddening. Absolute maddening.
Speaking of which, terms of surprising trades of the offseason, we have to talk about the whole Trey Lance situation. It came out of nowhere, and it happened very, very quickly, I feel. But I do really like what John Lynch said in an interview. He said, I think his story is pretty much unwritten. I've got a lot of belief in the kid. I think with his talent, his work ethic, he's going to forge a nice career in this thing. And I thought that was nice. So, yeah. But it was I just was not expecting it.
I feel like I just don't really understand what is going on in San Francisco, because they went all in on Trey Lance heavy. He was their number 3 pick or whatever. And obviously he had that really horrible injury that can't be helped. He was showing some promise. They then went with Jimmy G. They've now got rid of Jimmy G. So their starting quarterback at the moment will be Brock Purdy. And I'm just a bit confused as to where their thought process is. And also, Trey Lance said he found a breath of fresh air leaving the 49ers and heading to the Cowboys. that is quite an interesting thing to say. Like, what is the atmosphere in San Francisco? If that's this young quarterback who got a chance to start, was showing some promise, was showing that he could build an offense around him. To say that actually, I feel like I'm getting like a new chance and I'm getting like a new surrounding that I'm very excited to be at. They gave up 3 first-round picks to the Miami Dolphins to move up from the number 12 spot to get him 2 years ago. I'm just a bit stumped. So Dayna, could you maybe clarify a little bit more? I'm just so surprised. Like, this to me this came out of nowhere, and I'm stumped. I'm stumped.
Well, if I'm being honest, it didn't come out of nowhere. So I think that what has happened, the party line in San Francisco is we realized that this was our mistake, that we jumped. And I think that we are now righting a wrong. How disrespectful to Trey Lance. I mean, it's horribly disrespectful. I think, in my opinion, and I've said this a million times on Twitter, you guys have probably heard me say it again, there is a curse within the Shanahan family when it comes to quarterbacks. And what I mean is that you have to go clear back to Mike, right? His dad, destroying Robert Griffin's career from top to bottom. Letting him play injured, letting him destroy his knee. He never came back from that. I swear to God, Mike Shanahan ruined I almost say Colin Kaepernick because that's the other one. It ruined Mike Shanahan. He ruined Robert Griffin's career. Okay, 1. Then you have the Colin Kaepernick curse that seems to sit in San Francisco. And I know people make a big deal. I'm not big into curses. I'm not saying it's real. But what I'm saying is it's interesting, right? So they didn't let him start. They got rid of Alex Smith, who was a perfectly fine quarterback and went on to Kansas City and played well. I'm not saying he was a barn burner, but he was, fine for Colin Kaepernick. And then they managed to pass on Kaepernick. So then they go get Jimmy G, who was always injured. And they were going to replace him with Trey Lance, who turned out to be always injured, back to back to back to back. What happened to Brock Purdy? They brought him in. He was a surprise. Oh my God, the dude can actually kind of play from being the last pick in the draft. And what happened to him? Injured on his throwing elbow. So here's the interesting thing that I call it being Shanahan at this point. Trey Lance was Shanahan. Jimmy Garoppolo, Shanahan. Robert Griffin, Shanahan. Left and right. They are amazing defensive coaches. They cannot keep a quarterback. And I just am baffled why this keeps happening to them. And everyone's like, well, maybe it's the trainers, maybe it's this. No, I just think that it's chaos. So Trey Lance was completely disrespected. Peter Serrano says in comments, it says, I think that you think that's spicy. Listen to Jimmy G's interview when he asked about the 49ers quarterback room. Yes, you absolutely should go listen to that. But here's what's the interesting thing. Trey Lance has a very good shot at doing better in Dallas than he ever did in San Francisco. Why? Mike McCarthy is well known for kind of developing quarterbacks. He has Aaron Rodgers. He has Dak Prescott, which I think Dak's going to be better this year. However, he's going to sit behind Dak. So that could be good. Get a different, view, get, some really good instruction, and we'll see what happens. I would have preferred him landing in a couple of other spots, though, to be quite honest with you. I think that Dallas is not necessarily going to be the best place for him, but he will do better there. I think he's ready to shake that 49ers thing off. It's not his fault they traded their 3 first-round picks for him, right? But if you look at the 49ers quarterback room right now, they literally have 2 giant question marks in there, right? So you have Brock Purdy coming off of an injured elbow, which we don't know how well he's going to throw. He wasn't a great thrower to begin with. He's great to 20 yards. And then after that, it's lots of question. They still have the same amazing defense. And then you have Sam Darnold, who has fizzled out at 2 different teams as their backup. I don't understand what San Francisco is going to do if and when Purdy gets hurt again, because that's what they do to quarterbacks. And then Sam Darnold comes in. It's going to be a disaster. And it is and people keep saying, well, they keep getting far into the playoffs. Yes, that's their defense. Their defense is that damn good. But if you don't have a quarterback that can finish those games, I don't know. So I really question the whole Shanahan family thought process on quarterbacks. It's baffling to me. So we'll see.
I mean, I totally agree with being Shanahan's quite
Totally.
quite a good saying, actually.
Yeah. He was totally Shanahan.
Like I say, like I've said this in previous podcasts, I don't know what they do in like their training or their regime or anything. There's just always injuries to their big players, and you know, their main guy who's supposed to be helping them to reach a Super Bowl and win it. And even if you look at Trey Lance stats at San Fran wasn't the best. You know, he had the fewest a top 5 pick has played for our franchise since he made his debut in the common draft era. So it's like since 1967 and excluding this draft class, because obviously we don't know yet. And then, he played 8 games and he completed 56 out of 102 passes for 797 yards with 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. You guys went all in, and then he got injured, and now you're going, actually, we should have done that.
Yeah.
What planet is that normal?
I don't know. The interesting thing too is I don't think their line is any better this year. In fact, it could even be a little bit worse, their offensive line. And so then what do you do? And they're playing in, a less than stellar division. And we have to look at that Arizona is kind of a disaster. And oh my God, that thing they put out today was just another whole conversation. And then San Francisco, we don't know what's happening there, but you still have Aaron Donald running down your throat. So, and then you have the Seahawks line, which we're hoping is better than last year. So I think that what's interesting with San Francisco is they will ride and die by that quarterback. Their defense will win them games. No question. And I think that's what's saving Shanahan and Lynch's butt for so long. But at some point,
yeah, that's not going to last forever.
I don't see how logically it can. Even if you keep getting deep into the playoffs, but you can't finish and you have to have a new quarterback every 2 seasons because you can't keep one on the field, somebody's got to answer for that at some point. But
speaking of Arizona,
disaster.
What are they doing?
They're a disaster. They're a disaster. Did you guys see that? So they put out this thing today. Arizona did. It was like a little video, like a little behind the scenes, kind of like, some of the other teams are doing. And it's Gannon, their head coach, who's a wackadoodle. If you guys haven't.
Oh, yeah.
He's an odd little ducky, right? Yeah. So he starts out
maybe
this
not
team
from
meeting.
This planet,
Right. Kind of. But he's standing up there at this team meeting. And he's like, who drove to work today? Who had to ride the bus? I want people who drove to work today. And we're like, they're all like that. They pan the guys and they're like so confused. Then he goes on, he wants killers on this team. It seemed so ingenuine and so not his speed. And the players are literally like,
it feels like when Unai Emery went into Arsenal and he was like, Arsenal. And they were all like, what is going on? Like, who is this guy?
It was so strange, you guys. And I'm like, and that whole introduction video when he was like weirdly hugging the play. I mean, it's just weird. It's just interesting. And so I'm hoping that they just keep, getting rid. I feel bad for that Dobbs that just got picked up by them. He's like, I guess I'm going to Arizona.
I mean, I know people are like Colt McCoy getting cut. Like, that's a really bad decision for Arizona, blah, blah, blah. Colt McCoy's probably like, yeah.
I'm free.
Yeah. So it's interesting. And then there were some things that came out that said, even when I think it was their general manager was suspended and they're supposed to have no contact, they had burner phones so they could talk to him and get that. And so there's all kinds of things going on in Arizona. That franchise is in a lot of trouble just from the front office down. There's lots of question marks. And of course, now Kyler Murray is still not coming back anytime soon. So we'll have to see.
No. Do you think personally, they're trying to tank so they get that number 1 spot? But even so, I don't see how
absolutely.
But how does that solve their problems? They're still
Yeah, it's not like they can dump Kyler because he's too expensive at this point still. They'll have to wait another couple
years. It's also like that meme, isn't it? Like, the dog sitting there with his cup of coffee and the fire's going around him and he's like, this is fine.
Exactly.
Arizona.
Exactly. True. I mean, the Texans look so much better than Arizona at this point.
Oh, they did.
So there you go.
Saying something, Yeah.
Well, you just mentioned Colt McCoy. What other kind of if any, because I don't think there really are that many surprises when it comes to roster cuts. I feel like some of them are pretty obvious, but are there any that surprised you, any of you guys at all?
Yeah, I would say David Moore getting released from Tampa Bay was quite a big one, considering the new offensive coordinator was like, oh, he's amazing. And anyone time someone is leaning on him, balls in the air, he doesn't really get affected because he's so strong, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, oh yeah, sorry, see you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, you know, a big one for me, I think. It does, I mean, maybe they're going a different direction, but I don't know. I feel like the lack of experience could become a major issue in Tampa with letting him go.
None of the roster cuts really surprised me. There wasn't like a shocker one, like, you know, it's not like Aaron Donald got cut or something. You know what I mean? There wasn't a big one like that. What is interesting to me is the contract disputes that are still out there and going on that weren't fixed by cut day. Like they weren't fixed by that. And so, you know, we still have Nick Bosa is still sitting out there and you know, trying to get this contract done. You still have Chris Jones in Kansas City. And he's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'll sit out the whole season. Like he said week 8. I think he said week 8 because then this year. So for those who don't know, those guys who are holding out, if they're not playing or on the active roster by week 8, they lose that year in their contract. And Chris Jones is like, I'm not losing this year. I want out. So if they don't give him a contract, he wants to be able to get out of there. So there's quite a few. And now Mike Evans, that threw out there today. They're like, he's like, I give them till week 1 to get this contract extension done or what? Like I think that's been more the drama than necessarily the roster cuts this year are those guys who are still sitting on their contracts. And, you know, Lynch can say all he wants that, you know, we're getting Bosa's done and he's going to be there and blah, blah, blah. But until that thing is signed, I don't know that and then how much money they just paid that Hawkinson, that tight end. I'm telling you, that's just that defensive end money is just going to keep going up and up and up. So that could be real interesting here in a couple of weeks.
We've got a really interesting question here from Graham. Oh, that did not work. There we go. Who's the biggest dumpster fire, Arizona or Indianapolis? Well.
Ooh, Liz, who do you think is a bigger dumpster fire?
I don't. Well, I want to say Cardinals, but I feel like actually it's Colts.
Really?
I feel like Arizona is like the obvious one, but at the same time, just Colts just seem to have been almost like cursed since Andrew Luck left. They just haven't gone anywhere.
It's like the little brother who's always jealous of the big brother. That's what I think the Colts is, you know, like, I could be like them, but I'm just choosing not to be, and I'll just be jealous for the rest of my life and
bitter always.
If I have to pick between the two, I'm picking Arizona. And the only reason why I say that is I think their actual roster is much weaker than Arizona's. I mean, we have to remember DeForest Buckner still plays in Indianapolis. You know, you still have technically Jonathan Taylor, but, you know, we'll see what happens there. But I think that there is a little bit of glimmer of hope in Indianapolis with their rookie quarterback, with Anthony Richardson being there. You know, they can say, oh, well, let's see what happens. So it seems like that's a little better. Now, if you're comparing front offices to front offices, Jim is racing class all by himself. But I think if you look at the actual team construction and how it is, Kyler Murray's not it, right? Like we know that now. They paid him a ridiculous amount of money for no reason. And that's no disrespect to him. He just isn't that elite level that he got paid at. And I think that there's still a question mark with Richardson. He could take a year to develop, but at least there's maybe a possible upside there. But the rest of them, they're just, we'll see what happens. I really am holding out hope that DeForest Buckner, who wants to be traded, gets traded right to the Pacific Northwest. It's my dream, and I'm sticking to it right now. So we'll see. But that would be insane of Jim Isray to do at this point with all the trouble they have on with Taylor right now. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, be interesting one.
Yeah.
I also think another one that's really interesting to look out for is obviously, I'm going to swear because it's Friday, Aaron Rodgers being at the Jets, because I feel like why would the Jets not go for him? You know, he is one of the best. No, I'm swearing. One of the best players in NFL history. Excuse me. But I don't know how it's going to fit in New York. Like, he's going to be a lot more scrutinized there. Like, that is like, you know, New York is like its own little bubble, like, of 100%. Constant news, like, all the time. And if you're a star there, you're under the lights 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So he can't really be on the Pat McAfee show being like, oh, I could be like them, but I'm just choosing not to be. And I'm just choosing not to be. And it's like, oh, well, that's not don't get vaccinated, just get a guru. Because New York's going to be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? So it's going to be interesting. Going to be interesting to see how he has that culture change. I'm quite fascinated.
Have you guys watched Hard Knocks at all?
No, but I need to. I really
need to.
It. Yeah.
I won't.
I don't know if I can.
Refusing.
I just can't. I can't stand the guy.
I can't. I literally watch Hard Knocks every year, and I'm like, nope.
Anytime I see his like face, I just like get this like uncontrolled rage.
Did you see that question? Did you see or that clip that they put out there? He was in a game, and one of the defensive players on the other team's kind of pushing me. He's like, dude, what's wrong with you? Where's the respect? And I was like, if you have to ask someone if they respect you, then you are digging. I was just like, God, I hate this guy so much. And so here's the thing is that there's a couple players on that team that I'm not a huge fan of, but I love Robert Saleh as a head coach. So
I love him too.
I really get tugged there, but
like he's a guy people want to play for. Like he gives you that total, like, I'm respecting this coach. Like I'm going to try and win out every game. No, you just have Rodgers.
This is his last ditch effort, I think, to win with this team without having to have a rebuild. And it's not because the team isn't good. They are good. And so it'll be interesting to see what Aaron Rodgers brings to the table. I'm sticking by he will not play the whole season. He'll end up injured. I'm just sticking by that. I really think that that's probably going to happen. And then we'll have to see, where they go from that. But I can't watch it. Just like I can't watch the quarterback show. It
just makes me feel.
I actually really enjoyed quarterback though. Like quarterback was good fun. I enjoyed it, but then I enjoyed Patrick Mahomes' his whole segment. Obviously, a lot of it was around Brittany, but like also loved Kirk Cousins. This is what I love about shows like that. Like I love that you get to see more of the player and like I suppose the ins and outs of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of why I want to watch Hard Knocks in a way, because part of me feels like, I hope I don't like Aaron Rodgers, but is this going to be a bit like when Tom Brady left Patriots, and that like we all hated Brady in Patriots life, but then I really liked him after that. So
no, I didn't.
Is this going to be another? I know you guys didn't. We've discussed this.
I'm not even going to pretend I did. I still did not like Tom.
I still really like him.
No, that's icky.
Icky. I would watch quarterback if it was called defensive line. Then I'd watch it just fine. Yeah. I understand it's Peyton Manning.
Give me a show about Bobby Wagner any day. I will watch it.
Exactly. Linebacker, offensive tackle. I would watch a show called Offensive Tackle. Just kidding.
We have another question from our listeners. And
okay.
Random question. If London were to ever get an NFL team, what would you name them as?
Oh, that's a good question, Peter.
I think Graham's answer is great. London Silly Nannies.
The clock towers. I don't know.
I was thinking like London Bobcats.
Yeah.
Does the UK have Bobcats?
No.
The Bobcats is my college mascot, so I would actually be okay with that. But
I don't know. It just came to me. London Bobcats. I'm like, that's quite cool.
Yeah. I don't know. It'd probably be the Royals or something.
Oh yeah,
that's they're all. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
So let's just.
It would be London United. It would be
yeah.
Oh my god.
United London
Football Club.
London FC. There you go.
The London team.
That's right. I'm sticking with London United. I like that. Yeah.
Okay, so season started. Dayna and I still hate Aaron Rodgers. We still hate Tom Brady.
Nothing new there. Yep. Okay.
We're probably not going to watch quarterback. We're probably not going to watch Hard Knocks.
No.
So Liz, you're in the minority again. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I'm okay with that.
She always has been. She understands her love of quarterbacks. We get that for sure.
We get that. We're just defensive-minded folk.
Yep.
Yeah. For sure.
Dayna more so.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys a question. So season opener, a week away from yesterday, we got Kansas City versus the Lions, which I think is actually going to be a great game. I'm very excited for to watch. It'll be a blowout, but whatever. But the first games of the season are coming in outside of Seattle, because we're all obviously Seattle fans. Outside of Seattle, which team are you wanting to see so you can see how they've put it together. Like, what
Bills.
team are you excited? Okay, let me finish the question. But what team are you excited to look at to see if these pieces that they have brought in, or the rookies, or whatever it may be, meld? And we all know, caveat, it takes 4 to 6 games for a team to settle into who they really are. We understand that completely, 100%. But which one of those are you most excited about? Since you've already answered, Shona, why don't you go first?
No, I mean, I am excited for the Bills. I know that I think Von Miller can't return for a few weeks. Is that right? I think he's still on the injury reserve list. But I think when he comes back, like, that's the kind of like a missing piece that they've really needed. Also really keen, surprisingly, to see how Denver is going to do, because they've also got a really good head coach now. The reins are off Russell Wilson. How is Russell going to be under a coach that obviously is calling all the shots and he's not? And also, I feel like they've brought in really good pieces. I feel sick saying that, because as our grandparents always said, don't bring horse shit into houses. But
I love that you remember my grandpa said that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. But I actually am really curious to see how that is going to work, because I feel like Russell was like, I'm the star now, and now he's been brought down a peg or two. It'll be interesting to see how he plays with that missing pieces and a coach that actually knows how to run the show. Unlike
I completely agree about Denver. I think Denver's going to be fascinating because Russell now has something to prove, and he hasn't had something to prove in a while. He was always up there in the stats and up there in the wins, and did well. And last year had to have been a gut punch for him. So it'll be interesting to see how he responds. And I want to see how the other teammates respond back to him now that they have this. To be quite honestly, Sean Payton has been described as overbearing. So that is the total opposite of Pete and of Nathaniel Hackett. So we'll see how they kind of all will respond to that. So it'll be definitely interesting. Liz, what about you?
I don't know. It's a really hard one, that. It's kind of hard because obviously there's been
another one
has kind of happened.
Just going to pick this
Cleveland
here.
Browns. Who's their quarterback again now after everyone's... Oh, Sean Watson, right?
Yeah, we don't want to talk about Cleveland.
Yeah, let's not.
Cleveland are also the garbage fire.
Yeah.
I really wish I had an emoji. I'll just be like.
And Baker Mayfield's at Carolina Panthers now, right?
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay.
Oh,
Tampa
shit,
Bay.
Tampa Bay. Oh my god, yeah. Interesting. I don't know. That's not even nearly my answer. I just thought about him because of Browns. But I don't know. Lions are a team that I've wanted to see be successful since 2012 when I first started to follow the game. And it just feels like the past 2 years they've gotten closer and closer and closer. So, like, is this year the year? Is this the year that they make it? They get there? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I completely agree with you. I think they're one of the more fascinating teams in football. And they went on that win streak at the end of last season. And, those don't always carry over, but the feeling of those win streaks carry over. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see how they put that together. And Jared Goff played very well last year. He was ranked way high with the quarterbacks and in his touchdowns, I think it was passing touchdowns. He was ranked high. And so I want to see if they can continue that with him. I think that they're going to be much more competitive in an Aaron Rodgers-less division. And I think that that'll be really interesting too, to see how they put all that together. I think it's going to be super important. The other one in that same division, which I think is going to be just as interesting, is the Bears, and see if Justin Fields can put it together. They got him a couple more, help, some more help on offense, and to see what he can do, or if we really need to shut down that Fields experiment. This is really his make or to break it year. So that division in and of itself. Then you have Jordan Love in Green Bay. So that whole division, I agree, is fantastically fascinating. And so, I think that the Lions is a great pick to keep an eye on. I think everyone also is going to watch the rookie quarterbacks. That makes sense. We want to see how they do. But there is one more team. And actually, it was already brought up, the Cleveland Browns. So Deshaun Watson hadn't played football in almost 2 years. Came in for the last 6 games, played okay. I mean, not elite level, raising the bar to everything, but he hadn't had a full off season. He hadn't done this, all the excuses in the world for that man. Right. So now here you're not having excuses. You still have Nick Chubb. You still have Myles Garrett, who does not need to be in a brown uniform, needs to be in a blue uniform. And so you have all of like these great pieces still. What is Cleveland going to do? How is Deshaun Watson going to raise the rest of that team? Can he anymore? So I think it's been a long time since he played really well in Houston. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with them. I'm really interested
agreed.
in that. Yeah.
Do you like how Dayna that Liz went through quarterbacks first before she said a team?
I know.
I always will be. I'm that girl. I am that girl.
Okay.
I'm not even gonna
Lisa
lie.
over on our turf.
Now.
Yeah, Lisa over on our turf, quarterback obsessed. So I'm used to it. I get it.
She's like, where's Baker? I'm like, oh, come on, Liz.
I want all of the quarterbacks. No, here's the thing. But in a lot of these teams, the quarterback is make or break it. For these kind of young and up and coming, can they put it together? I think is going to be very, very.
I also think it's interesting with Tua down in Miami as well. I'm quite fascinated to see how that works. I know we've said
make it or break it year. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've said that for the past couple of seasons with him, but this really is a make it or break it year for Tua down in Miami.
You know what? I know Graham is in our chat. So Graham, I'm hoping that you can answer this question. Tyreek Hill, is he on PUP? Is he out for 4 games? Is it Hill that's out? I can't remember. We'll have to see if he answers, but I couldn't remember that.
I feel like it might be.
I feel like that. Yeah, I really do. So anyway, that could be a big, that's your number 1 receiver, right? So you want him in there for Tua. But I think that whole division, what's going on there? The Giants, they think they have, quarterback. I'm going to let that go. But they have Saquon Barkley back, obviously. You have the Bills, who I have a lot of question marks around the Bills this year.
No.
I know, and I love them. I love the Bills, but there just seems to be, where's the spark? Where's the kick?
I know.
Diggs was almost out there. There's interesting things going on there. Then you have the Jets, we'll say, and Miami, who put together, oh my God, we have to remember, they picked up Jalen on their defense. They have like all of these great players now. So that could be a really fun division too. But yeah, there's a lot of really good storylines in the NFL this year. And I'm hoping, he says he's good as far as he's aware. So I'm hoping that's
okay.
So,
yes.
But yeah, so I think that's going to be this whole year. You have the Chiefs and you have Cincinnati, and then you have all the rest of them. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens to all the rest of them and which ones rise. It's going to be a good year.
Speaking of like storylines, have you guys seen like the NFL's like videos of them doing the table read? I love that Mama Kelsey's even in there and she's like, can my character get involved in a relationship with Jimmy Garoppolo? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yes, girl.
I would watch Kelsey. Now that's a show I would watch.
Catching Kelsey. Did you see that years ago?
It's about Jason. It's not about Travis. It's about Jason, isn't it?
Jason's much better than
I do love him.
Love Jason.
So
love
funny.
Jason. He's like, I've listened to Travis's playlist. I'm infiltrating it.
He's my favorite. Oh, I love Jason Kelsey. I have one more question. Are either one of you playing fantasy football?
No.
So
no.
And Shona, is that because you don't like it?
I just don't get it. Like, it's just stupid.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
so fun.
I'm just a sore loser.
I'd be like,
yeah.
Oh. No, I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm making you both play in our turf league next year. I'm going to teach you how to play fantasy football. So fun.
You can teach me.
It's free and you win a trophy.
My problem is I'm too much of a sore loser. So if I'm doing crap each week, then that's it. I lose interest in an instant. And like every year I say I'm not going to play fantasy this year, and then every single time someone draws me in. So I'm in the Sky Sports.
Nobody's drawn me in.
Yeah, we're drafting on Monday, so we'll see.
I got drafted into the baseball one year because I was like, sure, I'll do it. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And then I traded away. I can't remember who I traded away. He ended up being really good that week. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, we got you. Don't worry. I'm gonna break this wall. I got you.
Good luck with that, Dayna. It's not happening. Oh, well, guys, is there anything else anyone wants to say?
No.
I think that's a good comeback show.
Great. Always fun. Always fun.
Absolutely, always. And we are going to be back every other Monday, starting from the 11th of September. So 6:30 UK time, 1:30 Eastern time. Is that right?
1:30 Eastern. Yep. Mm-hmm.
1:30 Eastern time. Awesome. So anyone who wants to join us, then do subscribe through YouTube, or if you're listening to us afterwards, we are turning this back into a podcast also. So this will be back on your Apples and Spotify's and all that kind of stuff. But until next time, guys, thank you as ever for joining us, and I'll see you soon.
See you guys.
Bye.